Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to learn how to develop a subscription functionality for a website. If you're watching this video, I am going to assume you already have some understanding of subscriptions. However, if you are not aware of what subscription is, it's a feature that allows a user to pay for a service on a regular basis, usually monthly or yearly recurring payments. You have probably seen it on services like Netflix, Hotstar, and different SaaS-based platform. The core idea is that the user signs up for a platform, pays regularly, and in return they have access to some premium features or content on the platform. I have created this video in four different sections or steps. One is to create products and plans on Stripe. We will be setting up different pricing tiers directly on our Stripe dashboard. And then the second step would be mapping those plans to our website so the users could see them and select the one they want. The third step would be create new user and map the subscription plan to them. So when I say create new user, I'm talking about creating these users on Stripe, because eventually the Stripe is going to manage all these subscription and recurring payments on your behalf, on your platform's behalf. The fourth step would be initializing the subscription plan to uh, to allow them to access those premium features. Now, the way we would initialize it is by processing their first payment. So right after we map the users with the subscription, we will take their first payment, and then it will go on a monthly basis or on yearly basis based on how you have defined your subscriptions in your Stripe dashboard. And I'm going to use Node.js in the backend, and HTML, Bootstrap, JavaScript on the front end. I am also going to use JavaScript SDK for the front end part of our project, and Stripe's Node.js SDK for the backend processing. So, all right, let's dive into the actual coding part and start setting things up. Before we move further, if you're new to my channel, please subscribe to my channel to receive new updates. It's really motivating for me. So yeah, let's begin. I'm on my terminal. I'm going to create two folders, one for the backend. The second one is for the front end. Let's do that. All right, so I'm on my terminal. Now I'm going to create two folders here. One is backend and the second is front end. Backend would be handling the backend part of our logic, and the front end would be handling the front end part of our project. So let's first create a folder here. Let's initialize the VS Code here. All right, now let's first create the front end part that will be responsible for showing all the plans that our website has. So I will create a file here. I will initialize my basic bootstrap, and now I will take an example from Bootstrap website that will show all the plans in my project. So my HTML file is ready. So if you could see, I have created two plans here. One is the basic and the second one is pro plan. Let me open it in browser for a better view. Okay, so this is the front view. I think it's more easier for you to understand. So I've created two plans here. One is 1000 rupees and the second is 1500 rupees, and I have these subscribe buttons here. And now, as if you remember, I had mentioned that we need to map our plans that we have created on Stripe dashboard with the front end. So let's do that. So I'm logged into my Stripe account, uh, I'll go to the product catalog section. I already have created one SEO subscription product. Let's get inside, and you'll see I have these two prices created or plans created here. So one is this 1000 rupees, the second is this 1500 rupees, which is the same as we have seen on the front end. Now what we have to do is we have to copy this price ID from here and add it in our code. So how we will do it, we will add the link here, but before we do that, let me first create another file here. Now what we are going to do is registration, product ID, and then the price, the same thing here. So now if we go to the front end, we will see, we will refresh the page, and if we click here now, it will take us to the registration page, right? So since we do not have anything on the registration page, it's not showing anything, but let's do that. So I'm going to create a simple registration form here with name and email, and then we will write the backend part to create these users in our Stripe account. So let's first create the form. So I have this registration form ready. As you can see, it is accepting name and email, two fields at the moment. There's nothing fancy, it's a simple bootstrap form. So let's see how it looks like on the front end. Okay, so you can see these two fields created here and the product ID in the URL. We'll use name, email, and product ID soon. Let's go back to the code first. Now we need to create this user. We need to register this user in our Stripe account. So in order to do that, we will be using JavaScript and Stripe SDK to create this user to my Stripe account. So let's do that. All right, so my registration code is ready. What I have done so far is I have initialized the Stripe SDK here, and to do that I had to import this Stripe JavaScript library here. After importing, I have this function that is responsible for fetching the query parameters from the URL. As you have seen, I have product ID in the query parameter, and then I have the submit event listener. It captures the name and email address and product ID, and then it creates the user here. Although I'm not using the product ID right away, but we will need it when the user is registered successfully. You can also see that I do not have any URL ready at the moment. So what we will do is we will go to the backend, create an API. So for that, let's go to the backend and create a folder. Alright, so since it's a Node.js project, I will be using Express.js for the simplicity of the project and install some necessary dependencies. Let's open the terminal. So I have installed three packages here, Express, Body Parser, and Course, and of course Stripe as well. Alright, so four packages are ready. Now if we go back to our code and open the package.json, we can see our packages are installed successfully here. Now let's go back to the app.js and add the initializing script here. So this is my basic app.js file. As you can see, I have imported the three packages that we had initially installed. I'm initializing the Express and the course and the body parser. So the body parser is basically responsible for processing our JSON requests and make it available for our controller functions. This is the basic function to initialize the server on port number 3000. Let's quickly see if it works properly. Okay, so as you can see, it's working properly without any error. Let's go back to our code and create a controller file here to accept the name and email parameter that we have created on the front end and send it to the Stripe backend. Okay, so now my user controller is ready. I'm initializing the Stripe SDK here, and then we have this create user function, which is calling Stripe customers create function and passes these values to create a new customer in my Stripe account. As you can see, it is accepting name and email as a request parameter, but it is using shipping and these address details as a static value. I'm sure in your application, depending on your need, you would have these details either ready or probably you will need to ask them because these are important fields. So based on your project requirement, you can customize it, uh, and for now, let's just for the simplicity, let's use it as is. Now it returns back the customer that we have created. So let's go to the front end, and before we use it, let's initialize it in the route file as well. All right, so my route file is ready. As you can see, I have mapped the create user function with this API route. Let's add it in the app.js as well, so that whenever someone calls the API, the first file that would be executed is this app.js, and then this app.js would call our route file, and then route file in return would call the controller function. So let's initialize it here. All right, so I have mapped the user route here, and I've initialized it here. So let's go to the front end and add this URL. So I will use it like this: 2000 API/users. Now let's go back to the terminal, initialize the server, and go to our browser. Let's open the inspect element as well. Go to the network tab. So something error has happened. It says course failed. Okay, so I can see that the port number here was wrong. So let's change it, refresh the page and submit the form again. Okay, so as you can see, this time the request was successful and we have returned the customer information successfully here. As you can see, we have received the customer ID here. So if you remember, we would need this customer ID to map with our price ID. So let's go to the backend and add this condition here. Then we would initialize the customer mapping with the subscription functionality. All right, so my code to map the customer with price ID is ready. Let's quickly recap what I have done so far. So I am capturing the customer ID from user data that we have previously seen, and then I am calling this function, although I have not created this function right now, but I'll quickly create this subscription function and then we will check this part. So it is accepting the customer ID and price ID as the parameter, and then uh, in the back office we are sending these details to Stripe, and eventually let Stripe map the customer data with the price ID. Let's go to the backend controller and create this function as well. So my function to create the subscription is ready now. It is accepting customer ID and price ID, calling the Stripe subscription create function, and we are passing these two parameters. These are some default behaviors. You can read about these things on Stripe website. For now, let's just keep it simple. And then we are sending the subscription ID and client secret back to the front end. This client secret is going to play an important role because if you remember, the last step was to initialize the payment, the first payment that the user needs to make to activate this subscription. This client secret would be utilized there. Now let's go back to the front end and see if everything is fine. Yeah, everything looks fine. Just for the sake of debugging, I am going to log the subscription data in my console. Now let's go to the terminal and see how it works. Okay, so here I will reinitialize the server and we will go back to the browser. Okay, it says subscription is not available 404. So I think I have not mapped the controller function with the route file. Let's do that. Yeah, as you can see, the subscription part is missing from here. Now let's go back to terminal and restart the server. Go back to browser, refresh the page. Okay, so this time the response from subscription API is successful, and you can see we have successfully received a subscription ID and the client secret. Now, as I said earlier, this client secret would be used to initialize the first payment. Let's go to our registration.html page and complete the last part of this tutorial. Okay, so I have written the subscription part, the Stripe payment part here. Let's quickly recap what I have done so far. So I will go to here. So as you can see, I'm checking if the client secret is available. Then I am initializing the Stripe payment form in these 4 lines. So basically what it does is it initializes the Stripe payment form based on the client secret that we have received and mounting it in the payment element. So what I have done on the above area is that I have added this payment element div here with the subscribe button, and then I have created another div here to display any error message that we might have that we might receive from the Stripe side. So now we have this event listener here that listens to the card processing form submit event, and then it is using this function to confirm the payment with Stripe. At this moment, you can see that the return URL that I have here is a placeholder URL. We'll come to this later, but let's quickly go through the other part of the code. And then if we have any error, then I'm displaying this error in the error message section. And then these are some, different else block to handle the subscription and the user registration part. So just to give a final touch to the code. Now, if we come back here, so the reason why I have not added the return URL is because right now our local server is running on my local machine. It's not accessible to the internet. Now, when the user goes to the Stripe, or when the Stripe processing starts, Stripe has to return the user back to some URL to display the success or the failure message. Now, knowing the fact that this computer is not accessible to the internet, Stripe will never know as to which localhost URL it has to send the users to. So before we run this project any further, we'll have to put this project on an online server. So we can do it in 2 ways. One is to have a live server ready, VPS hosting or any other server where we could deploy our project and users could access it. Or we have a simpler tool that's called ngrok. So we will use ngrok to make our local host URL publicly accessible, and then we will put that URL here. Let's go back to our terminal again and initialize the ngrok server. So I'm gonna open a new tab here and then ngrok http 80. What it has done is it has made my local host on port number 80 accessible for the public. So let's check this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace my local host part with this URL and refresh the page. Okay, so you can see it is still accessible. Now I will use the same URL in my return URL portion. All right, so now when the user's payment is successful or even if it is failed, the Stripe will return the users to this URL. Uh, I'm not going to do anything on this URL, but in case if you want to test whether the payment was successful or it failed, you can write the processing of those code or those logics on this URL. So since right now it is just to demonstrate you the subscription functionality, I will validate it by going to my Stripe dashboard whether the user's payment was successful or not. But in your real project, you would want your users to see whether that payment went successful or not. So you might need to write some logic on your return URL. Anyway, let's go back to the browser again and see how it works. So user successful, subscription is still in process. And now you can see my Stripe card processor element is ready here. So I will enter the test card details here. So let's click on the subscribe button. Okay, it has probably not updated the URL that I had entered here. So otherwise it would have returned to this URL. Let's go back and check this again. Again the same. Okay, let's do the 3D secure card this time. So Stripe, as you are aware, I don't know, in India and in several countries, 3D security has become an important aspect of any online payment processing. So let's search for any 3D secure card and use it. So I have this 3D secure card. Let's use it on our platform. So this time, as you can see, it has returned a pop-up. If it was a real payment, it would have probably prompted to enter an OTP that was possibly sent to the user's registered phone number. But in this case, it's just showing us a pop-up to complete the payment. Let's do that. Now, as you can see, it has returned back to the registration.html page with some parameter. These parameters would be useful to confirm whether the payment went successful or not. We can, in this case, check it directly on our Stripe dashboard if the payment was successful or not. So we have the product catalog here. Let's go to the subscription part. And as you can see, this October customer 5 is active. The previous one is also active because the payment went successful. However, the return was not working fine. So if we click here, you can see the subscription is active now. The first payment was made on October 16, and the next payment would be due on November 16. So it will automatically process the user's card stored, and you don't have to worry about anything from this point onward. So as you have seen, this entire process is working fine now. I would leave you with two small tasks. One is to write the processor here to check whether the payment was successful or not. The second would be to enable a functionality to deactivate this subscription or cancel this subscription, because what would happen if someone wants to cancel the subscription. And if you encounter any challenges, do let me know in the comment section, and I would be happy to cover it in my next video. Hope you have enjoyed watching this video. In case if you have any feedback or any suggestions, please feel free to comment, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like this video if you liked it, and I will see you in my next video. Thank you. Bye.